Slanch. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody who has just joined us and will be with us today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow to attend 2021 St. Patrick's Day in Bahia. It's my great delight to be with you here this afternoon, tonight in Ireland and in Europe, as we take a few moments to share the rich heritage of the Irish. This is a St. Patrick's Day like no other, a day that none of us will ever forget. Last year, we were already in the midst of a global emergency, a pandemic, the likes of which none of us had seen before. But it seemed by then that the situation in Bahia was not as serious as what was happening in the other states of Brazil and in the world over. So we could celebrate St. Patrick's Day with the presence of the ambassador of Ireland, Mr. Sean Hoy, and his wife, Susan Hoy. A few professors from abroad, the Irish poet Jessica Traynor and Professor Stephanie Shibata from France. We could hardly imagine the devastation the virus would cause. We believed it would not last long. We thought it would not reach us the way it did and continues to do so. We believe that the number would not rise so high and so fast. And now, after a year, still it's quite impossible not to feel the strength of the virus, take into account the death rate it has caused, the impact on jobs and economic activities, the huge stress it has caused to us and to our families. It's time for solidarity, for the damage will be significant and lasting, not only in economic terms, but also in the emotional ones. We have to recognize that fear is also a virus. In these hard times, we have to look after our mental health and well-being, as well as our physical health. We need to halt the spread of the virus, but we also need to halt the spread of fear. Taking care of our well-being, keeping up our schoolwork, and taking regular breaks from watching news and media will certainly help all of us through the time ahead. To all of those across the world who have lost a loved one to this virus, we are with you. The vaccine is there to protect us, and we hope we'll soon have the right medicine for the virus. On this St. Patrick's Day, we send a message of friendship and of hope to everyone around the world, particularly to people in Ireland. Once again, they cannot go out to the streets of Dublin or any other city in Ireland or out of Ireland and celebrate this annual event as they always did. But the fact is, the Irish in New York, Boston, or any other place in the world are all together in this national holiday. They are all wearing green hats, representations of Ireland at home. We are not Irish by birth, but we are Irish by heart. And we are all here to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. As we could find alternative ways to teach, have meetings, celebrate families and friends' birthdays, we could also find ways to make important events happen. The theme of our event, Irish migration in contemporary times, had to do with the theme of the postdoctoral research I have just finished at the University of São Paulo under the supervision of Professor Dr. Laura Isara. The theme was inspired in Correspondences, a collaborative project supported and organized by Jessica Trainer and Stephen Rea, which projected the voices of immigrant artists, most of them experiencing the limitations within asylum and immigration policies and practices. Before finishing my opening speech, I want to thank the lecturers who are going to take part in the 3-day event. Without their participations, we could not celebrate the Irish national event. Every lecture will be connected with the theme proposed. The idea is also to pay homage to St. Patrick, who was also an immigrant in Ireland. You are all welcome and enjoy the 3-day event and the celebrations of St. Patrick's Day. Now, I may leave the floor to the Ambassador of Ireland, Brazil, Mr. Sean Hoy, who will open our event officially. He was unable to be online today, but he recorded his speech, and we'll be hearing him. After, we'll have James Spalding, an Irish musician. It's an honor to have James here again, taking part in our celebrations. All right? So let's hear Mr. Sean Hoy.
I send greetings to Professor Noelia and to all my friends and amigos in Bahia, especially this year in Salvador. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you, but we all have to deal with these challenges of COVID, and I congratulate you for organizing this event online. We are doing more and more online, and tomorrow we will have our own St. Patrick's Day reception online, and I will be sending you all an invitation to that separately. I think it's very interesting that you have a topic of migration, because St. Patrick, as you know, came to Ireland as a migrant. He was a sheep farmer in Wales, and he was brought against his wishes to Ireland, and this is the legend that we grew up with. But in his own way, he became a creator of emigrants, because our own missionaries traveled the world to the four corners of the earth to spread the Gospels and to bring peace in a time when the world was in turmoil and when there were more wars than there were churches. And our missionaries, men and women from every corner of Ireland, went to places when they knew they would never be coming back, and they made that ultimate sacrifice as emigrants. And of course we have missionaries here too in Brazil. Not as many as we used to have, but I have met with many of them. And they have embraced your culture and your country. They're in love with Brazil, and they have given so much to the people here. And it is important for us to acknowledge them in our little way. Ireland is a country that's also changed in my own lifetime. We went from a history of migration, and my wife's family, Susan, her mother had 4 brothers, but all of them left Ireland. In my father's family, only his eldest sister left. Everybody else stayed at home. But we always grew up with having relatives overseas, looking forward to their visits, and the rich stories that they brought back. When they were home, they were always wanted to deepen and relish their time in our culture, and made us see our own country in a better way, because they were watching us from outside. But they also brought back lots of stories about the world, and always that is a good thing to do. Always that's a good thing to hear, to be curious about other people and other parts. And Ireland now is a much more diverse place than where I was born 50 years ago, or maybe a little more. But you will see as we celebrate St. Patrick's Day that we celebrate our diversity, and we have Irish people that have their origins and their families in different parts of the world, but they very strongly embrace being Irish. And today, as we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, that is particularly important. I know one of the presentations by Professor Lara will be on the Irish in Argentina, and that's, I hope I will be able to join you again for that, because that's a story that always fascinates me, how we can have 600,000 people in Argentina of Irish descent and a very, very small number in Brazil. This is a question we need to continue to interrogate, because this is a massive continent, but we went to different places. And I know in Brazil, especially when I go to the south, there are parts where you could be in Germany, parts where you could be in Italy. I understand there are parts where you could be in Japan. Unfortunately, with this virus, I haven't been able to visit all those places. But when I met with the new Brazilian ambassador to Ireland, and we had an exchange, albeit online, he made a very astute observation. He said, Brazil is a country that has always had a history of immigration, but now we are starting to find our people all over the world. We are starting the process of emigration. And indeed in Ireland we have over 25,000 Brazilians, maybe over 35,000 Brazilians living in our communities and making a huge contribution to our culture and our own diversity. And Ireland is a country that has a history of emigration. For generations and generations, as a small island, our people had to emigrate to find jobs, to find opportunities. But in the last generation, we have become a country of immigration, welcoming people from all over the world. And I think there is really a very interesting discussion that we can have together. As the circle is closing and we're coming together, we have much to teach each other. But perhaps let me close with a small poem. I know last year we were with you with Jessica Traynor in Salvador. Indeed, that's the last official visit I have made in Brazil. I didn't think when we left Brasilia that morning to go to Salvador that this would be my last trip. But this is where we are with the pandemic. And I know that Jessica is sending us her greetings and her love from a dark Dublin today. But the poem I've chosen is from Evan Boland. She died tragically last year. But her father, Frederick Boland, was one of our most established diplomats. He was our ambassador to the United Nations, and he was the president of the General Assembly in 1960. And this poem is called The Irish Emigrant. So I've picked it because it refers to oil lamps as something of very significant, something forgotten, but something that always burning there in the background. And this year, we have distributed candles to our colleagues here in Brasilia, candles made by indigenous people in the Amazon region that we have specially commissioned, that they were green for St. Patrick's Day. And in our culture, we have a history of putting a light in the window to welcome back our emigrants, to welcome home our people. And I think this same sentiment is captured in this short poem. Like oil lamps, we put them out the back of our houses, of our minds. We had lights better than, newer than. And then a time came, this time and now we need them. Their dread, makeshift example. They would have thrived on our necessities. What they survived, we could not even live. By their lights now it is time to imagine how they stood there, what they stood with, that their possessions may become our power. Cardboard, iron, their hardships parcelled in them, patience, fortitude, long suffering in the bruise-coloured dusk of the new world, and all the old songs and nothing to lose. So thank you, Evan, for leaving us with those words. And may I leave you with these also. And thank you very much for asking me to open this session, and a happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sean. And thank you very much for your support. You know that it's very important, that support. And now I will be moving to our musician, our friend, the Irish musician, James Spody, who was with us last year, and today he's again here. Thank you, James, for your generosity, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Noelia. So hi guys, happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm James, and I'm going to sing a song to you guys, which I've called "We're in This Together." And I wrote it last year with my friend Aaron. And although it's a song from a father to son, it's also got a message of unity. So I think it resonates with everybody as well during these kind of strange times when we're all apart. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Son, you make me feel alright. You're bringing me out into the light. You give me direction. There isn't nothing I won't do. Give you the sun, the stars, the moon, and the ocean. Before you were here, we didn't know. You turned the house into a home. That's what you did. We're in this together. So we're in this together. Son, I will be your teacher and your best friend. Oh son, I promise I will love you till the end. Oh son, you don't understand how much I love you. Oh son, I'm a better person because of you. Spinning my whole world upside down, making me turn my life around because you're perfect. I never knew I could love like this. Never a moment I will miss. Yeah, you're making me better. And whenever you need me, I'll be there. It's hard to explain how much I care. We've got a connection. We're in this together. So we're in this together. Son, I will be your teacher and your best friend. Oh son, I promise I will love you till the end. Oh son, you don't understand how much I love you. Oh son, I'm a better person because of you. Said I'll never, 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 never let you down. Oh, I said I'll never, 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 never let you down. Said I'll never, 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 never let you down. We're in this together. We're in this together. Thanks very much, guys. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, James. Beautiful. It's a composition, isn't it?
It's a song, yeah. I wrote it together with my friend Aaron Rowe last year over a video chat like this, singing with a guitar and writing, you know. So,
yeah.
Thanks very much for the invite, Noelia, and I wish you guys all the best.
For your contribution, participation. You're always with us. Hope you can celebrate Bloomsday together again.
Oh, look, there's Aaron. He's watching and he's just commented there. So, yeah. Hi, Aaron. How's it going, man? Hope you enjoyed that.
Okay. Happy Valentine's Day, James. So now it's my turn. Now it's my contribution when I'll be talking about Patrick as an immigrant in Ireland. And I started quoting Seamus McManus in the story of the Irish race, when he says the coming of Patrick into Ireland marks the greatest of Irish times. Of all most momentous happening in Irish history, the simply one that had the most extraordinary, most far-reaching effect. It changed the face of the nation and utterly changed the nation's destiny. The coming of Patrick may be said to have had sublime effect not only on Ireland alone, but also upon the world. It was the world event. He was one of the greatest Celts, became one of the greatest Irishmen, and one of the very great among men. Still following McManus, it was when the great Roman Empire, 1443 to 1410 AD, was crumbling, that Patrick entered the island as a foreigner, while Ireland, with fleets on the sea and armies in foreign lands, had reached the pinnacle of her political power. It means that it would seem the least appropriate time to spread a new faith and a new soul into the country. But as soon as he set in Ireland his spirituality, he awakened, and God guided his path to disseminate the light of faith and pity among the Irish. The rare combination of the spirit with the human, his shining virtues, ineffable tenderness, made him gain complete moral ascendancy over the Irish nation. His knowledge of Ireland's language, customs, helped his task in converting and baptizing aristocrats, chieftains, and Druid priests before his death on March 17th in 461 AD, the era of the fall of the Roman Empire. According to the traditional narrative, Patrick was born into a well-to-do family around 386 AD. His father was a Christian deacon and a minor Roman official. His grandfather, a married Catholic priest, which was allowed then. Although many historians hold that the 16-year-old boy named Succat was born into either Scottish or English family, McManus claims there is endless dispute towards his birthplace. Many authorities hold that it was near Dumbarton, in the most northern Roman province of Celtic Britain. Others hold that it was in the Celtic province of Britain. In his confessions are pieces of internal evidence that sustain either theory. Patrick was captured and arrived in Ireland in the year 389 in the hold of a pagan king's slave ship. After a 3-day voyage to the land from which he was then taken captive and sold to an entrim named Milieu, another distressing journey through deserts and wilds was on his way to work at a shepherd. Deprived of food and clothes, Patrick's only companion were his flock and his newfound faith. His terrible conditions at work, herding flock alone during the day and the night in the valley of Braid, around the foot of the mountain Slab Miss in the north of Ireland, put him in constant contact with God. It was in that land he was brought as a slave that he had found himself and God. His arrival happened in the reign of Niall, King of Ireland, the founder of the most powerful Irish royal dynasty, 368-395. Patrick eventually returned to his family in Great Britain after escaping from slavery. 40 years later, in 432, he came upon the mission of changing the country's destiny after having a vivid night vision, a voice crying out and saying, "Come to us, O holy youth, and walk among us." With this, I was feeling touched, he said, and could read no longer. It was when he traveled away to follow his task of carrying the gospel of Christ to the land of his love. Some doubtful accounts show Patrick's continental travels in search of learning and ordination. In 396, he is said to have entered the monastery of Mamutiers near Tours, a foundation of his uncle Saint Martin, where he remained till Martin's death, which occurred in 397. Some say 402. It was when Saint Martin gave him the monastic habit and the clerical tonsure. In the year 430, at the age of 38, Patrick requested the Pope to be commissioned to Ireland, but he was not selected for the task. Pelagius was the monk selected instead, but he died before reaching Ireland. In the year 432, Patrick was made bishop by the Pope Celestine. Patrick's appearance and power were so impressive that the king Lauher decided to confront him with the Druids at his court. The pagan king intended to use the Druids' magical power to confound Patrick. But he could dispel the darkness the Druids produced and preach Christ to the assembly, convert all the members of the court. Eventually, the king gave Patrick freedom of his realm to preach the new faith where and to whom he would. From that time on, other preachings happened throughout different places, such as Meath, Leinster, Munster, the province of Connaught, and Armagh, etc. It was during the years on top of the Mount Connaught that he commanded all the serpents and venomous things in Ireland, drive them into the ocean, and rid the island of all viperous things forever. It is worth mentioning here the vast assembly at the fair Tyoli, at the Lammas, that he used to attract a great crowd. Scholars, travelers from the far countries, foreign merchants, historians who gathered at this national fair furnished to the fairgoers a rare sensation. By heading the procession and telling the seething crowd of the infinite love of the King for all of them, Patrick could reach the heart of them by the grace of God, converting many people, particularly King Loher's daughter, founding monasteries and cells and baptizing and church in building. After a life of great labors, mostly dedicated to God's doctrine, Patrick, one of the greatest that Ireland ever know, is still more one of the dominant personalities of the world history, passed away at dawn in about the year 460, leaving behind a grief-stricken people. These historical records of Patrick's life, his coming and going out of Ireland to different places, his contact with different people from different nationalities, give evidence to the fact that Ireland is not a place of indigenous people, but of settled and assimilated immigrants, and of other tribes whose culture, language, literature, and history underline the present. By investigating Patrick's life, we can see by contrast the different nature of Irish people before and after Patrick. Relationship of power between Irish communities and outsiders. Interactions from planned to casual encounters. And how the inflow and outflow of foreigners helped culture change and to form Irish identity. Describing Patrick, Seamus McManus states that the Irish land, which he had entered as a foreigner, he now left as an Irishman. For as he was detained to give a new faith and a new soul to Ireland, Ireland had given a new faith and new soul to him. He had found himself and found God in the land to which he was detained to bring God. The interaction of Patrick with the inhabitants of the island, his mission preaching Christ to assemblies everywhere, heading processions, converting people, writing books, building monasteries and churches, in short, disseminating religion and piety everywhere, shows his life was committed to inclusion, interaction, and equality. His precise workings as Christ's missionary were a key mechanism for promoting interaction, understanding, and solidarity across difference, with no discrimination and prejudice. After setting foot in Ireland, reawakening his spirituality and scattering the seeds of the gospel, Patrick might be represented as the greatest figure who entered the country as a foreigner, changed his destiny and the country's destiny. Thank you all. Thank all those who are here and have just listened to me. This is a very short history of St. Patrick as an immigrant. So now continue our program. I'll be calling our friend who has been with us, who has also been with us, like James. I think Claudio has been with us for over 3 years. He's always taking part in our events, Bloomsday, and other events that we have been celebrating. So let's wait and see if Claudio is coming now. I think, wait a moment, because it seems that his line dropped. Let's see if he will be here in a minute. Oh, yes!
Here I am. How are you doing, Noelia?
Thank you. I was introducing you, saying that you are always with us. You're always helping us because it's your presence in our events is always important because you disseminate this specific knowledge because you are the unique in Brazil.
Yeah, well, I do my St. Patrick's impersonation, bringing a new faith to Brazil, and that faith being Irish mythology and Irish history and Irish arts and literature and music and everything. It's always an honor for me. Thank you so much, Noelia, for inviting me again. Would you like to present some words before I take it on here?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have to introduce you. I have to say that you write many books on mythologies, you give lectures, you have courses. What else? Help me, because I don't have my...
I play Irish music. I was amazed listening to James and his very Brazilian sounding tune. Beautiful, beautiful, very moving for a parent like I am to hear a song like that. So kudos to him, Bula Buzz, as I wrote. And he's my counterpart. He's an Irish guy playing, Brazilian music, so to say, even though it's his own making. And I'm a Brazilian guy playing Irish music.
And remember, the first time I met you, which was at what is the name of the pub in São Paulo? When Munida and
was it at O'Malley's? Was it?
No, it was not O'Malley's. It was the other one in Pinheiros. Finnegan's, yes, in Finnegan's. Yes. It was when I was introduced to you and I could listen to your band. It was really good time. Good time. You cannot forget those
You're absolutely
moments.
Right.
Yes.
That's a long time ago.
I think I wrote in my book that I'll be launching next Thursday at the end of our event. Yes, it's all my history, of my academic history. It's Memória, História e Saberes. My 20 years teaching Irish literature in Bahia. The events that I have organized, and the people who took part in my story, in my history of life. And I think you are included in it. So,
really?
The floor is yours to tell your story.
Lovely. So, thanks very much once again, Noelia. And, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone as an opening. I found it very, very enticing when you invited me. When I read that this year's celebration title was What's that again? Revisiting Irish migration in contemporary times. And well, how can I talk about mythology and religion and in spirituality, contextualizing this in the migration set and in this area? Well, to start with, the first mythology that issues from Ireland is known as the Líbhar Gabála na Héireann, or the Book of the Invasions of Ireland. And it's all about the sequence of migrations. So you have the people of Kessir, then the Firbolg, then the Fomora, the Tuatha and finally the Milesians. So it's all about a migration or a sequence of migrations since time immemorial up to our day. So Ireland seems to have attracted many people to migrate and to visit. And I drive people around Ireland yearly. I've been doing this, and it's funny to see how Brazilians relate to that culture, because most people are fascinated by Ireland, but have no idea what Ireland is about, actually, you know. And it's funny to see how they deal with the landscape and the myths attached to the landscape. And that was the key for me to start writing and jotting down ideas for this presentation. How can I make a connection between the main theme, which is migration, the spirituality of Ireland in general, and the landscape through which people migrate. Ireland has always been a sacred place. It's not me saying, it's just the Irish that say that. One of the names given to Ireland in ancient times was Inishfall, which is the island of destiny. So it was a destination. It was meant for it to be visited by other people. The other name, which gave origin of the modern name Ireland, issues from a goddess, Erin or Erie. So Eria's land became Ireland land, the land of the goddess Erie. So it has always been a very spiritual, a very feminine, so to say, place, and a place that attracts and seduces as females normally do. I just made mental notes here about something that Shanhoy said, Ambassador Shanhoy said right in the beginning, and it's gone full circle, right? So the Irish attracted people, then they did the diaspora, went abroad, and now they are attracting people. So it's all about this circular movement from here to there without actually changing the pattern, which is a good thing. You know, it's like some people are too revolted, literally, against patterns, and it's a very revolutionary thing, ideology, which is impermanent. But patterns are the mainstay of mankind, humankind, and life in general. If not for the patterns of the seasons, we wouldn't have life. And so this circular thing that moves in patterns is a very positive thing and shouldn't be neglected philosophically. I wouldn't delve into that because it's too broad an issue for us to tackle here, but it plays a part, even though I didn't realize when I was jotting down the ideas. When Mr. Hoy mentioned this, I said, okay, here it comes, the seasons, the passing of time, influencing the landscape, influencing the people that live in and inhabit that landscape. So time and space put together in a very nice way. And that's one of the core beliefs of Celtic spirituality, pre-Christian Celtic spirituality. Going back to Ireland, one other name for Ireland, as I said, was Erie, which is the land of the goddess Erie, herself a bountiful goddess, a bountiful spirit. And the Irish people, they always had this connection with the land in a very spiritual way, because they believed that the other world, the realm of the spirits, the realm of gods and goddesses, of deities, of the sacred, was intertwined with the landscape. So there is no such thing as a heaven above in Celtic spirituality, where the gods sit, or a Mount Olympus as in Greek mythology. The gods, they are part of the landscape itself, and it's intertwined, as I said, not apart, but within this world, one woven into the other. Again, the circular movement again. So you have the mundane characteristic, the mundane reality, and the connection with the spiritual realm. This proximity is another core belief, is another core, tenet of Celtic spirituality. So the gods and goddesses, they are very near, very close to us. And that's what makes the landscape sacred. So many places in Ireland, they are places of pilgrimage in present times, in Christian times, post-Patrick times. But they have a very ancient, pre-Christian origin as holy places as well. So, but before we go into those places, I'd like to interrupt a bit and talk about the whole concept of pilgrimage, of what is a pilgrimage. So when we talk about pilgrimages nowadays, the two most famous ones are the Christian pilgrimage to Compostela, Santiago de Compostela, and the other one is the Muslim one to Mecca. So you have to move from where you live and go to that place in order to get enlightenment, healing, inspiration, atonement, whatever. But the word pilgrimage, coming from the Latin peregrinatio, is very interesting to analyze, because peregrinatio in Latin, two words connected here: per, through, via, when you go through something, and ager is the origin of the word agriculture. So ager culture, the culture of the land. So an ager is a tract of land. So peregrinatio literally means to go through a tract of land, to move from A to B. Okay, so this is it, basically. And in medieval times, you have to remember that Ireland was as popular as Compostela as a place of pilgrimage. So people moved from all over Europe and went to places such as the Hill of Ishna, Paschal Fire, lit by St. Patrick, and they went specially to a small, tiny island off the west coast of Ireland called Inishmore, in which they had so many churches and centers of pilgrimage in which people would gather to hear the teachings of St. Enda, St. Kieran, and so many other of their own disciples. Ireland was a center of pilgrimage in medieval Europe, as important as Rome, as important as... and I'm just talking about the west of Ireland. Of course, you could mention Compostela, you could mention something as important as Compostela as Monasterboice, as Glendalough, and so many other places, you know, that people flocked from all over the continent, even from Asia and Africa, as I heard, to learn with the Irish saints and the Irish scholars. No surprise that Ireland was known in the Middle Ages as the land of saints and scholars. That's a nickname. That's a way of describing Ireland in the Middle Ages. And of course, this whole concept of pilgrimage is not uniquely Christian. It predates Christianity, and in Ireland, we had so many places to which people flocked. You know, the locals flocked before the arrival of Christianity, such as at the top of mountains. Some mountaintops were seen as sacred. And of course, it comes to mind Croagh Patrick in County Mayo and Mount Brendan in County Kerry. Mount Brendan is associated with Saint Brendan, and it's interesting. We could spend hours talking about Saint Brendan, one of my favorite issues here, but not today. Otherwise, we'd stay here for the rest of the day. And of course, there are other places of pilgrimage in Celtic Ireland that were on hilltops, such as the Hill of Tara, Ishnach, that I mentioned before, Loch Crew, and so many others. So it's interesting. You go up, you climb up to go to a place that is seen as sacred. It's common. It's very easy for us, you know, in a Christian society to relate to that. The highest you go, the closest you are to the heavens. But you cannot turn a blind eye to the fact that the most ubiquitous sort of holy place in Ireland nowadays, and since Celtic times, are wells. So the wells are actually the counterpart of a hilltop. a mountaintop, you go up, and a well, you go to reach the water that issues from the bottom of the earth. So it's up and down, as above, so below. And again, you have the full circle pattern emerging here. So you have St. Bridget's Wells all over Ireland, most famous in Kildare. There is a beautiful one, a very poignant place to visit, which is in Liscannor. I love taking Brazilians there, and I've witnessed some of the most honest epiphanies from people that had no idea that we would be stopping at a well, and they had no previous idea of who St. Bridget is, and they were moved by the experience of actually being there and seeing the ex votos in the place. So it's a moving place. There's another St. Bridget's Well in Westmeath as well. All of them very, very moving very moving places to go. And another one that I would like to mention is Tobernault in County Sligo, which is an open air cathedral with the stations and the altar and the pulpit and everything. It's all on the slope of a mountain, and so you have a well beneath and the mountaintop up there. So again, as above, so below, full circle, and you go there. So there's the pilgrimage, there's the movement from here to there through the Ager, through the land. And then St. Kieran's in Inishmore as well, as I mentioned. And this gave rise to, if you are into literature, and I know most, if you are not, you should be into Irish literature. There is a play by John Millington Synge called The Well of the Saints, and it's connected to the whole idea of going there to find healing. You make a pilgrimage, you go from here to there to find healing. This play by Synge talked about and tells the tale of a couple of blind people, and they go there to retrieve their vision. That's very, very obvious, right? So you go there to gain vision or to recover your vision, to see what you were blind to before you went there. That's the whole idea behind a pilgrimage. You gain a new insight. Inside, you see from the within, and you see within. And it's a nice play, one of the most interesting plays by Synge, in which they go, and it's all about faith, recovering faith and recovering vision, and looking at themselves with this newly gained vision, and seeing how ugly they are, because they were led to believe that they were very beautiful, but they are statically ugly, this couple in the vision. So it's all about the search for true identity, which cannot be seen by the eyes in your face, only with the inner eye. And so pilgrimage in Ireland and in the Irish is a very important thing in Ireland. And pilgrimage in the Irish language is, I have to read it, I don't have it by mind here, but it's Illichracht. Illichracht is how you say, forgive my Irish, literally pilgrimage. And the root word, that's the most important thing for me. The root word for pilgrimage in Irish is Elihir, which is stranger, the other. So the pilgrim is a stranger in the land that he travels through, and the point of pilgrimage that he reaches. So he's always the other one. He's always the different one, and everything is different and new for him. So the root word of pilgrimage in Irish gives us the idea that to be a proper pilgrim, you have to find your true identity through otherness. You go through a place, Ager, that is not yours, and you reach your inner identity through the otherness, through the strange, through the comparison, alteridade, as we say in Portuguese. So you have to find the other in order to understand who you actually is. And again, we go to the idea of otherness, of the different, but it has to be a close one that you can reach and interact with, and this gives us not a meaning, or a most distinctive and the deepest meaning you can get from the word otherworld, the concept of the otherworld, the realm of the spirits and the realm of the gods, It's the other one. It's not this one. Our one is the land of nature, the realm of the senses, the realm of the landscape, of the physical world. Whereas the spiritual world, the divine world, is the other world. So it's the other world. It says it all. And one of the names for the other world in Irish mythology is actually, I was playing with the words here, intended pun. It's called Land of Promise, Tir Terngre, Land of Promise. So you're promised, if you reach that land, you will be changed. You will access the divine. You will get whatever you were looking for, your identity, wholesomeness, healing, and whatever. And it's normally reached in Celtic mythology. This other world is normally reached through a Nimram, which is a rowing, literally rowing. So you get an oar, a couple of oars and a boat, and you row through the ocean, normally facing west, and you reach a promised land, the land of promise. It's a pilgrimage of sorts, and it's normally beyond the sea, this Imram, the destiny of this Imram. And this brings us, okay, I wasn't meant to say this, but St. Brendan that I mentioned, you have the pilgrimage to Mount Brandon in County Kerry. St. Brendan took a boat and a couple of friends and went into a pilgrimage, trying to find this land of promise. And they reached the land called, well, it's called the Isle of the Blessed, literally, the Isle of the Blessed. And it's described as a place with no winter. It's an endless summer and no storms, and there is no tree that doesn't yield fruits, and there is no bush that doesn't yield flowers, and where the souls of the departed ones, the souls of our ancestors, take the shape of multicolored birds. Well, it's a very apt description of a tropical island or a tropical land. Some people say, I'm not saying anything, but some people say that St. Brendan in his voyage reached Brazil, especially because the name Isle of the Blessed in Irish, in its original form in Irish, is High Bressil, High Island, blessed, and Bressal, Bress is blessing, Bressal is blessed, and Brazil is blessed in plural form. So the Isle of the Blessed is High Brazil, with S, not with Z. Okay, or Z. So we are in the land of the blessed of Irish mythology here, full circle again. And as the blind in St. Just play, I'd say that our search for sight or for healing or wholesomeness takes us forcefully into a pilgrimage, be it to the top of the mountain or to the bottom of the well. We have to reach what was behind us, so the ancestor, key figure of the well as a place of devotion, as a place of reaching the departed ones, very common in Celtic lands, not just in Ireland. And we look for the source, right? So the well is the source of water, and the water flows and brings life and inspiration. You have the concept of the immas, IMBAS, which is poetic inspiration, and it's described in medieval texts in Irish as a divine soul that takes the form of something that flows through the poet or the druid or the bard, right? So the immas is the flow of inspiration that comes from the other world and reaches us, and I would say we don't tap, but we allow it to flow. We don't even tap it, it flows through us. And this search of inspiration, divine inspiration, is what leads us to try and find our wholesomeness, our identity. We travel to a place from A to B. We travel to land. Landscape is sacred in Ireland. And we reach the other world, the divine, that brings us inspiration, that brings us healing, that brings us the cure. Times of cure like this ones, we desperately need cure and inspiration in our times. And this is reached through a pilgrimage that takes us in an Imram. We row through the water, we find the source, the well from which the water flows, and we get healed by the bath of these sacred waters, be it physically or most importantly, internally, as we reach it inside us. And to finish this, I have to quote one of the main sources of my work, along with Yeats and Joseph Campbell. It has to be John O'Donoghue, Irish poet, theologian, and philosopher. And he wrote something about it, this whole circle idea and the search for identity, in his poetic and very deep philosophical way. He says, the one who dreamed the universe. I like this metaphor. It's not the creator, it's not God or gods. The one who dreamed the universe loved circles and created everything with such beautiful incompletion that we need the others to complete the circles of identity, who I am, belonging, what makes me who I am, and creativity, what I give to the external circle. Life is full of magnetic interims that call what is separate and different to become one, to enter into the art and presence of belonging. This is John O'Donoghue, and I say there is no better explanation of Celtic spirituality, of Celtic network art, of Celtic music with all its voices that intertwine, as Irish mythology and Irish literature and Irish history intertwined and intermingle one with the other, as the other world mixes with our own reality if we have eyes to see. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you, Noelia, for the opportunity to share this small drafted words, hastily drafted words with you guys. Thanks very much, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone.
Thank you, Claudio. It's quite impossible not to follow you, in your journey. Now, when you talk, you contaminate us, Yeah, it seems we are not in Brazil, we are in Ireland, and we visit Ireland. every place you mention, it seems we are there. And it's a real fantastic experience. This is why I always invite you, because my student, we have already had this kind of conversation with my researchers. They enjoy listening to you, because the more they listen to you, the more they want to go to Ireland and see the places that you pinpoint in your presentations, And if
that's wonderful.
I have to say that to the audience, that Claudio, every year he travels with a group of friends and people who want to go to Ireland, and it's a kind of pilgrimage.
It is a pilgrimage. They don't know, most passengers don't know, but it is a pilgrimage. There is a beginning and an end to it. There is purpose to everything. Of course, I don't preach, I don't like the idea of preaching. Oh, we do, the guru thing. But I think Ireland has so much to offer, and it's better when you get it unwittingly, without realizing that you are entering a sacred place. Without being bombed by expectations and everything, you just let the place get into you as you get into the place, and that's the whole purpose of the journey. And it's
the energy of the places you visit.
Exactly, and the history and the myths and everything.
One day I'll follow you.
That will be grand, very fantastic.
Oh yes, I'll be learning more and more. Thank you, Claudio. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have you here, to listen to you. It's a lesson, we learn a lot. Lara, my students say it was great. Thank you so much, because Lara is the name of the others. We also have Manuel, who is in love with your speech, Sanyu, and the others. Thank you very much. So with Claudio's speech, we are closing our session today. And tomorrow we have a few professors who are also talking to us about Ireland, different subjects, but always Ireland, because it's our passion, isn't it, Claudia?
It is. Can't get rid of it.
As I said in my initial speech, my opening speech, I'm not Irish by birth, but I'm Irish by heart.
Absolutely. And as I normally joke, I have no blood, no single drop of blood that comes from Ireland, but my heart is Irish. So all the blood that flows through my body has to go through my heart and becomes Irish.
I like it. Thank you, Claudio. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Week, because St. Patrick's celebrations is along the week.
They go on.
Yes, go on. Bye-bye.
All the best. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All the best. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Oh, so with Claudio, we come to the end of our first day. And before finishing, I have to say that on Thursday, I will be launching my book, Memória, História e Saberes. It's a book that I wrote in a year. So it's about my history, my academic history, my experiences at the Federal University of Bahia, and I hope you can get one. But I'll talk to you on Thursday. So for today, thank you very much for being here, and see you tomorrow.